Our movie starts with Ryan, a skilled chef, arriving to visit his old friend Jack, whom he hasn't seen in 12 years. It's clear that Ryan is trying to escape from something big, as he ignores a message on his phone and looks for a cab to leave. However, he's surprised when a luxurious car picks him up at the airport. Upon arrival, Ryan is awestruck by the villa where Jack is hosting him. It leaves him wondering how Jack managed to reach such a high level of success, especially since they graduated together, and Ryan was always the better chef. Ryan waits for Jack, snacking by the pool and enjoying the ambience. Later that night, Jack finally shows up, and they're thrilled to reunite after all these years. Jack pours them drinks, and Ryan jokingly asks if the wine is from his private cellar. Jack reveals that the villa isn't actually his. He's just here to prepare a dinner for high-profile clients of the agency he works for. Ryan laughs and offers to help, but Jack insists that the agency only allows one chef per event. As they catch up, Ryan shares that he's been working at a small hotel for a long time. Jack, on the other hand, talks about traveling the world and cooking for the richest people on the planet. He explains that while the work is demanding, the pay is unparalleled because these wealthy clients want unique experiences. They eventually call it a night and head to their rooms. The next morning, Jack wakes Ryan up early, and they go for a jog together. Afterward, they change and decide to explore the town. Jack drives them around in his new car, but it is an old model, which he bought to experience the charm of older lifestyles. They stumble upon a cozy restaurant and decide to have lunch there. At the restaurant, Jack notices a beautiful woman named Alice and invites her to join them. Alice shares that she quit her job after saving enough money to travel the world. Jack and Ryan tell her that they are friends and have not seen each other for 12 years, since they were in cooking school. Here Alice discovers that they are both chefs and asks them who is better. Seizing the opportunity, Jack invites her to their villa to judge for herself. When she arrived home, Alice chose the dish for them to prepare, and they both started cooking. When they're done, Jack blindfolds Alice, and Ryan serves her both dishes. After tasting them, she praises Ryan's dish as the better one. The trio spends the rest of the evening by the pool, enjoying their time together. It's evident that Jack and Alice are hitting it off. Later, Ryan leaves them to prepare dessert, but when he returns, he finds the two heading upstairs together. The next morning, Ryan wakes up to find Alice gone. Jack tells him that he dropped her off at her hotel. Ryan becomes contemplative, admiring the villa's beauty and asking Jack how he managed to reach such heights. Jack, visibly frustrated, admits that he's just going with the flow, saying it's all part of playing the game. Jack then heads out to continue his work in town. Ryan stays at the villa and decides to use Jack's laptop. He notices that Jack's bank account is still logged in and is shocked to see a balance of $1.7 million. That evening, Jack returns and they have dinner together. Sitting by the pool, Jack reveals his deep dissatisfaction with his life. He admits he's tired of everything and even hints at wanting to end it all. Ryan tries to console him, reassuring Jack that he's there for him whenever he needs support. The next morning, Ryan searches for Jack, but is horrified to find him hanging, having taken his own life. Stunned and unsure of what to do, Ryan lowers Jack's body, wraps it in a bag, and decides to access Jack's bank account to take the money. However, when he tries to log in, he discovers that the account's password and email have been removed from the system. So he calls customer service on the basis that he is Jack and gives them all the information and asks them to tell him the password because he had an accident and forgot everything, but the employer refuses for security reasons and asks him to come to the branch with a card so that they can provide him with the account information. And he also knows that the bank has no branches outside the States, means that he must return to his country, and then we find him opening his phone, taking pictures of him, and making a fake card in the name of Jack. The people who run away from them send him a picture of his mother and threaten to attack him. If he did not return their money within 2 days, they will kill his mother. He responded to them and promised them that he would send them another $25,000, but they did not trust him. They would double the amount, and in fact Ryan was forced to agree in order to protect his mother. That night, Ryan takes Jack's body to a nearby lake and sinks it. The next day, he tries to locate Jack's home address to sell the villa, but finds out it's in another country, making it impossible to sell immediately. Meanwhile, the people threatening him remind him of the deadline. Just when Ryan thinks he's out of options, a car arrives at the villa. It's two representatives from the agency Jack worked for, a woman named Jane and her assistant Maurice. Since they've never met Jack in person, they mistake Ryan for him. Jane asks if he has prepared the ingredients for an exclusive dinner party, particularly the meat. Ryan, pretending to be Jack, confidently assures her everything is ready. When he asks about the payment, she transfers $50,000 to his account immediately after verifying the client code he provides. However, when Jane asks about the specific cuts of meat, Ryan admits he hasn't prepared them yet. She becomes annoyed since he's been there for some time without doing anything. To calm her, Ryan suggests they go out and get everything now to ensure the dinner is ready on time. Ryan's relief turns to horror when Jane and Maurice take him to a church. There, he learns the horrifying truth. Their clients expect to be served human meat. Jane threatens Ryan, warning him that if he fails to deliver, they will kill and cook him instead. He realizes he's caught in a deadly situation with no easy way out. Back at the villa, Ryan starts packing his belongings and consolidates Jack's things into one room to avoid suspicion. That night, he waits for the right moment to escape. But Jane confronts him. Pretending he's just getting a drink, Ryan listens as Jane explains everything. She reveals how the agency works. Wealthy clients book these exclusive experiences that include premium accommodations and high-quality meals. In return, the agency makes $130 million annually, sharing 10% of the profits with local authorities to cover up their crimes. However, she warns that anyone who fails to meet the exact requirements of the job is eliminated. The next day, Ryan and Maurice are tasked with finding a victim for the dinner. Outside the church, they spot a beautiful young woman and her mother. They follow them discreetly by car, waiting for an opportunity to strike when they enter a secluded area. When the moment arrives, Ryan is forced to act, knowing the consequences if he doesn't comply. The story takes a darker turn when Ryan and Maurice discover that the woman and her daughter have mysteriously disappeared. While they're contemplating their next move, a young man from the town approaches them, offering to help. Maurice exchanges a glance with Ryan, who subtly nods, signaling the man could be their target for the dinner. Maurice begins luring the man closer to their car by pretending it's broken down, and the man offers his assistance in exchange for money. Maurice immediately agrees and hands over some cash. As the man crouches under the car to inspect it, Maurice pulls out a silenced pistol and shoots him in the head. Before they can leave with the body, the missing woman and her daughter return with a local police officer. The officer confronts them, saying they were seen acting suspiciously. Maurice quickly defuses the situation by claiming they're from a real estate development agency scouting for a hotel project. To make his story convincing, Maurice hands over a business card with matching details. When the officer questions Ryan, Maurice interjects, saying Ryan is an American architect who doesn't speak the local language. The officer appears satisfied with their explanation and leaves. Once the coast is clear, they take the young man's body back to the villa. Back at the villa, Jane learns about their encounter with the police and is concerned. However, Ryan assures her that the body will suffice for the dinner. The team moves the body into an underground room where they hang it up, and Maurice leaves Ryan to prepare it for cooking. Maurice and Jane supervise the rest of the dinner preparations, while Ryan, horrified by what he's doing, starts butchering the body. Later, when Ryan finishes, Maurice leaves a note on his bed, along with a fake ID and new account information, effectively tying Ryan to the operation. Ryan compares the fake ID with Jack's and realizes they are identical in quality. He waits until Jane is preoccupied with overseeing the event and takes a car from the villa. Unfortunately, as he speeds off, he accidentally hits a worker. The impact also causes the car to crash into a tree. Panicked, Ryan gets out to check on the injured worker, but Maurice arrives, alerted by the noise. Maurice quickly deduces that Ryan was trying to escape. He warns Ryan to stop running, emphasizing that the agency has ways of tracking him down and killing him if he tries again. Together, they push the car back into its original spot. To distract Ryan from his guilt and fear, Maurice shares a story about the only person who successfully left the agency. The woman, plagued by guilt over the murders she facilitated, became highly sought after by the agency's wealthy clients. When she demanded to meet the heads of the organization, they agreed. In exchange for leaving the agency, she became a private chef for a wealthy family and has since lived peacefully. Motivated by the story, Ryan decides to complete his task. He joins Jane to finalize the dinner menu, and she assigns him two assistants to help him prepare. That evening, the guests begin arriving, with Maurice escorting the first group while Jane manages the event. As the dinner unfolds, security informs Jane that two detectives are at the gate and insist on entering. She allows them in and goes to meet them herself. One of the detectives is the same officer who questioned Maurice and Ryan earlier in the day. He's accompanied by another detective, Ruiz. They explain they're investigating the disappearance of the young man Maurice killed and have questions about the agency. Jane remains calm and reiterates the cover story about hosting a party for investors interested in building hotels in the area. Detective Ruiz, however, presses further, showing Jane a photo of the missing man and revealing that he's his nephew. Ruiz insists that his nephew wouldn't run away, as he was a responsible man with a newborn child. Despite Jane's attempts to maintain composure, Ruiz's persistence raises tension. She assures him they'll let Maurice explain everything once he returns, but it's clear she's trying to divert their attention from the true events unfolding inside the villa. The story grows more intense when Detective Ruiz asks Jane to introduce him to Ryan. Jane leads Ruiz to the kitchen, where he shows Ryan a photo of the missing young man. Ryan denies ever seeing him. Ruiz then casually inquires why someone working as an architect is cooking in the kitchen. Ryan explains that cooking is a long-time hobby of his, and he earns good money from it. Sensing an opportunity, Ruiz begins asking Ryan technical questions about architecture. Unprepared, Ryan struggles to answer, and Jane repeatedly steps into cover for him. At one point, Jane leaves Ryan and Ruiz alone to instruct the guests to act convincingly as investors. When she returns, she finds Ruiz and the police officer enjoying the soup Ryan made, praising it highly. Ruiz even jokes that Ryan should have been a chef. Later, Jane pulls Ryan aside and warns him to act the part of an architect more convincingly to avoid suspicion. Ryan explains that he wasn't aware there was a coordinated backstory for everyone but assures her he'll handle it. Maurice eventually arrives and meets with Ruiz, also denying any knowledge of the missing young man. Ruiz and the officers seem ready to leave, but hesitate when Ruiz recalls Jane's earlier comment that the young man might have run off to experience a new life. Ruiz shares his concerns, mentioning how several young people in the area have gone missing, only for their families to later receive letters claiming they've started over in another city. Ruiz decides to meet the supposed investors and shows them a photo of his nephew. Naturally, they all deny having seen him. One of the guests suggests that Ruiz join them for dinner, reasoning it would clear any suspicions. Jane reluctantly agrees, and the guests assure her they'll handle the situation. Meanwhile, Maurice informs Jane that a woman named Alice is asking for Jack. Jane steps out to meet Alice and tells her Jack is busy. Alice insists she just needs water after a long journey, so Jane allows her inside. In the kitchen, Alice immediately notices Jane calling Ryan Jack. Suspicious, she observes Ryan making a soup that eerily resembles blood. Ryan explains that he's too busy to talk and insists Alice leave. However, Alice's suspicion grows when she notices Ryan wearing Jack's watch. He tries to reassure her by claiming Jack returned to the U.S. to be with his family. Nervously, Alice leaves to get her car, only to find it won't start. Maurice conveniently appears, offering to give her a ride. Back in the dining area, Ruiz enjoys the meal and is particularly impressed with the meat. He asks the waitress to bring the chef so he can personally thank him. Jane reluctantly brings Ryan to the dining area where the guests, including Ruiz, praise him for the dish. Ruiz compliments the meat and asks about its source, but Ryan fabricates a plausible answer. One of the guests excitedly requests a Belgian-style tongue dish for the next course. Ryan agrees and heads to the refrigerator, only to discover that the tongue is infected with herpes, making it unusable. This revelation leaves him shocked and scrambling for a solution. Unfortunately for Alice, when she returns to say goodbye to Jax before leaving, Jane makes the horrifying decision to cut out her tongue, ensuring Ryan has the ingredient needed for the requested dish. Ryan prepares the meal as promised, but is overcome with guilt and moral anguish. Later, Detective Ruiz discreetly slips Ryan a note asking him to meet in the restroom. There, Ryan confesses everything, revealing the shocking truth about the meat served at the dinner. It was Ruiz's missing nephew. Ruiz is horrified and rushes to the restroom to vomit. When Ruiz emerges, he informs Jane that he must leave immediately, but Maurice tails him to ensure he doesn't take any suspicious action. Ruiz pretends to leave but instead sneaks back into the basement with Ryan. There, he discovers Alice's mutilated body and his nephew's remains. Enraged, Ruiz demands Ryan retrieve his phone from the kitchen to call for backup. However, when Ryan reaches the kitchen, Maurice notices his panicked demeanor and grows suspicious. Maurice grabs a chainsaw and goes after Ruiz. Ryan returns to find Maurice has gruesomely dismembered Ruiz. Shocked and horrified, Ryan is forced to help Maurice clean up the mess. Meanwhile, Jane sends fake messages to Ruiz's family, claiming he has left town due to personal issues, thus covering up his disappearance. The next morning, Ryan wakes to find Jane informing him that the higher-ups are extremely impressed with his work. They've assigned him a high-profile event in London, officially inducting him into the agency. As part of his initiation, Maurice injects a tracking device into Ryan's neck, ensuring the agency can always locate him. Ryan packs his belongings and is picked up by a driver who takes him to the airport. At the airport, Ryan meets another chef from the agency who enthusiastically introduces himself, praising the international opportunities the job provides. Feeling trapped yet resigned to his fate, Ryan befriends the chef, preparing to join him for the next gruesome event. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. If there's anything specific you'd like to see in future videos, feel free to drop your suggestions in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
See you next time.